Hi, I wanted to do a video. I know this is kind of a random one on this channel, but I got asked a question in the TrueDFS Discord, which I'm quite active in there as well. And I just wanted to make a video because I think that'll convey my approach and how I do things a lot more than just typing everything out. And either the message will be lost or maybe a point that I want to make, I can't figure out the words to type it out in a short paragraph, or I would just end up writing a gigantic block of text. So I want to do a video. First caveat, and really the only one here, is so I don't post screenshots on Twitter. I don't like doing victory laps, things like that. Now in my own Discord I will, because that's basically like my own house. Like, of course I'm going to celebrate and stuff there, but I rarely post things publicly and stuff. So I play a lot of Counter-Strike, I play League of Legends, and I play F1. I believe all three of those are basically the exact same game in terms of DFS, in terms of line construction, things like that. I understand the lineups itself are constructed differently, but the same approach, in my opinion, relays across the board. And I want to use CSGO as an example, but I'll focus on the League of Legends tournament, the LPL playoffs that just concluded, or the contest that just concluded this morning, that went over Wednesday and Thursday. And mainly that's kind of just what I want to talk about. So when we look at the League of Legends content, oh, this is the question I was asked specifically. And the reason I'm making this, I don't know if he's referring to this specific contest or if he noticed the fact that typically I'm a single entry player, or I do, you know, I don't enter a lot of lines. NASCAR is the only one that I enter a lot of lines with. F1 is typically anywhere between like 2 to like 10 lineups and things like that. But my question, or the question that he asked me, would how do you play so little entries and still hit? I need pointers. And I just kind of want to give my process here. And we'll talk about League of Legends here, but I'll use Counter-Strike as the better example because I think it's a much easier way to show what I'm doing. I do the same thing in League of Legends, but because you have so many different positions in a lineup, you know, you have top, jungle, mid, you have the middler, you have the middle player, you have the support player, the ADC player. It's a bit more confused. Same principle, but a bit more confused in my opinion to speak about. And so for me, and we're talking 2 gamers, if there's a 3 gamer, even a 5 gamer, I typically don't enjoy playing those nearly as much because it makes it harder to do. That's why. Let me go over Counter-Strike first, because I need the foundation laid out, and then we'll talk about League of Legends. So Counter-Strike is typically a 2-game slate. If it's 3, the same principle can apply, but it makes it a bit more difficult because then you have to deal with another variable of a third game. But for me, the way I attack Counter-Strike, unless I watch a lot of professional Counter-Strike play, so I'm typically familiar on the nuances of teams and what they do. That's why I don't make videos for it, because like 12 people would watch it. It wouldn't be worth my time making it. Just a lot easier for me to jump in there. But for the most part, I build with both favorites, expecting to win their matches 2-0. Now, I understand that that isn't a thing that happens in every single game. There's upsets. There's situations where the match goes to a best of 3. That's just how Counter-Strike goes and things like that. But very similar to like my approach in NASCAR for Wreckfest races at Daytona and stuff, I'm planning for just absolute Wreckfest races at Daytona and Talladega. I will never build any differently from that. Similar to Counter-Strike and League of Legends, I will never build, and very rarely build. League of Legends is more because there's more upsets, but we'll do Counter-Strike. I'm sorry, I'm bouncing all over the place. But for Counter-Strike, I will never build lineups that are viable in even a game that goes 2-1 and 2-0. I'm not going to win there. I always build with a 2-0, 2-0 in both games mindset, because in my opinion, that's the easiest prediction to build for. And the reason being is if you have, you know, game 1, you have a winning team A and a winning team, or you have a winning team A and then you have the losing team. In game 2, in a 2-0, you know, we'll go ahead and put that here as well. In a 2-0, and like I said, I'm not the best player, okay? If you win, or if you look, first off, I haven't played Counter-Strike in probably a week and a half. I just haven't liked the slates. I don't win every single week. I'm not even up there every single week. I'm just explaining the process that I use, and sometimes, you know, I'll have the third best line. Sometimes I play the optimal and we tie with people. Sometimes I don't, whatever the case may be. I'm building like this. And the reason I'm building like that is because typically in scoring, now yes, there's variances and stuff, and typically salary is important, and salary will usually dictate what happens here, but typically looking at scoring with the 2-0 match sweep bonus, your top scorers from game 1, your top 5 will usually be from the winning team. And usually if it isn't, if it changes, you might have a situation to where the best player on the losing team has the 5th or 4th best scoring, like DraftKings score, but because they're the best player on the losing team, they're the most expensive player on the losing team. So they don't work in lineup construction. And the reason for that, as I'll explain in a second. So typically, it just follows this, to where with the match sweep bonus, and it's usually pretty close between where the worst players on the winning team score against the best player on the losing team, but usually the map sweep bonus will usually carry them past it. Because usually you'll have a guy who is on the losing team, and he might have like 44 kills, 58 deaths, but maybe 13 assists, plus the map sweep bonus. And that can usually push him to beat or be right with the more expensive guys on the losing team. And now why is that important? Well, because yet again, the way I build for 2 zeros on both sides, well, that is basically the identical thing that will happen in game number 2. So you'll have the winning team usually have the top 5 scorers. If not, they'll certainly have the top 4 scorers. That's just usually what happens, okay? So your player pool should be winning team A and winning team B. Now, Brand, of course, like, you're going to play guys who are going to want to win, but now you get to the salary portion. So we'll use actually, well, I mean, if you're watching this, you probably aren't familiar with teams and stuff, so I won't like go into specific of team player. But usually the highest scoring best player on either team will be the best captain on the slate. And typically that is the most expensive player on either of these teams. It'll just be whoever outscores each other. Now, yet again, if you understand teams or you understand players, you can normally lean of like, okay, Teams A's best player is better than Teams B's best player, and Team A's best player typically carries that team more. He'll usually get more first kills. He'll usually get more quad kills, whatever the case may be. We can usually pinpoint your captain being one of these players. If not, you can include, the 2 best players from the winning teams. But that's usually it. Like, it's on a very rare occasion that the highest scoring captain will be the 3rd, 4th, or 5th best player on the team. It's usually one of the 2 best players on the team. It's usually the 1st and 2nd. So when you have your captain on Counter-Strike, we'll just use this guy as an example. When this guy's the captain, clearly, if our pool is just these guys here, then what mathematically do you need to do to get him in your lineup? Well, you can only have a max of 3 players on a team in a DraftKings lineup. So it'll just go to whatever the math game shows. Like in terms of scoring, let's say now that we've identified that these are the top scores from each game, let's kind of back up and say, okay, where do these guys fall in terms of scoring on the slate? Well, we can do 1, 2, we'll say 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Let's say like this is actually, that's too, here, we're going to be more aggressive, sorry. We'll say 7, 8, 9, 10. Let's say this is where the scoring ends up going for this game. So then it's just a math question of how do we get this captain to be viable. So like, he would be our first guy in the lineup. Whatever his pricing is, you're going to need him. He's the highest scoring guy on the slate. His price will then dictate, well, do we need more value plays? Do we need more mid-range plays? On what team are we focusing on more of? So whatever the case may be. So like if this guy is the most expensive player on the slate, typically the 2nd best player on this, if it follows salary, he isn't going to work in the lineup. And at this point, this is where I'm saying like, okay, so sorry, I hope this is making sense, but this is just what I do. So if I enter 10 lineups, my 10 lineups are built with this player pool, usually assuming this guy is the winning captain. the most expensive, or one of the most expensive players of the winning teams. I assume that one of those guys is the captain. And then I just build 10 lineups going through situations of what happens if he's the winning captain, and this is the player pool. We have to fill out our 5 remaining slots in our lineup with these 10 guys. And so you just mix and match, okay? And that's why I usually say, like, Counter-Strike is just a math game. Like, yes, you play players, but when it goes into this range, it's just what mathematically, what resulting DraftKings points are being scored that allow you to get this guy in your lineup, and so on and so forth. So this is how I build lines. And like a lot of people, and I assume, here, hold on. Like here's an instance of, DKDFS posted, when he won here, and I kind of joked around saying, hey man, show off some other people that you play with. We played the same line, and this is a great example of a 2-game slate where both teams go 2-0. Okay, so you have 3 players from each team, and you just force them in. Like you have Xantares from Eternal Fire being the highest scoring player, and then it's just whatever the salary allows you to do with your other guys based on what they score. This is the part, projection wise, I just let Jesus take the wheel. I am not concerned about projections. I'm just concerned about building a lineup there. But this is an example of what typically it ends up looking like, and you can tell, and you can see that I played the exact same thing here, whatever the case may be. Now, that same philosophy, although easier to explain with Counter-Strike, is what I use in League of Legends. And so looking at like today's slate, and this is where the same argument can be made that this is very similar to F1 because you have a limited amount of players and spots that you can use. So like F1, you have your constructor, you have your captain, then you have your 4 remaining drivers. Here, you have your captain, certain positions, but you're being forced. You only have a player pool that you can, what is it? You only have a limited amount of players that you're going to play, in my opinion. Now, you can play, 57 lines and build for, underdogs winning and guys who, like, long shots coming in. I don't build like that. I flat out build just based on the favorites showing up and winning, okay? And even when you look at it, like this, just look at the amount of lines. So, like, this is the highest scoring line, second highest scoring line, third highest scoring line, tied along the way, 4th highest, 5th highest, tied along the way. And it's literally just trying to land on what lineup of, RNG and, was it Top Esports, winning. Because we're not playing Thunder Talk, we're not playing, this isn't Weibo, this is WE. Like, I'm personally just approaching what lineups can I build if RNG wins this and Top Esports win this. And so for me, and I can talk about this clearly because I know exactly the way that I went through this on Wednesday, because this was a slate over 2 days. So for me, I use a combination of SaberSim and then just hand building now that I have access to SaberSim. So SaberSim gave me my first 4 lineups. So lineup number 1, lineup number 2, lineup number 3, and lineup number 4. And these lines just slightly missed. And also, I mean, the fucking payout structure of these contests are terrible. That's just how it is. These F1, Counter-Strike, CSGO, they're just terrible. Like, if you don't have the best scoring line, you're just not going to even compete. Anyway, so if I'm building with these lineups, typically what you'll do is you do like a 4-3 stack. Like this one is, 3 RNG players, 4, and I include the team in this when I say a 4-3, and then it's 4 top esports players, and it's just a combination of who can get there. And so I don't typically have a favorite captain. I will talk specifically about the Jackie Love winning lineup and why I built that, but typically I don't have a priority of who is the captain, because typically pricing is so tight that you can't get both ADCs from both winning teams. You just usually can't do that unless it's a 3-gamer and the pricing's kind of soft. If you are able to do that, typically I just slam in 2 ADCs. But typically you can't play both ADCs with just the player pool of using just using players from the winning teams. Now you can play both ADCs if you are using everybody in the player pool, like every player available from winning and losing teams. Of course you can do that, but typically the way I build, just because I use players from the winning teams, you normally can't get that. And so typically your winning captain will usually be a top jungle. Supports are rare, but they happen. But typically I stick with tops and jungles. I think, let me just see right fast. Jungle, pretty sure Rookie is top. Yeah. Even going through Angel's jungle, mid. He's mid, whatever the case may be. You get the idea of typically you're using, I mean, like I said, that's why I didn't want to necessarily type out in Discord, because honestly, I just kind of throw out projections. I don't use projections when I do esports contest. I just focus on, if Angel is the winning captain, what is a situation where he can financially work? We have a cap space of 200. We have a cap space of 100 here if Rookie's the captain. We have a cap space of 100 here. Like if I forgot, not Tion, I forgot how to pronounce his name. If he's the captain at 10-5, what are you financially able to do to make him the captain using the player pool of only the winning RNG and the winning top esports players? Well, then this is the one that SaberSim told me to play. Anyway, so typically I play the top 4-ish SaberSim lines. Even before I was using SaberSim, I'd still use this. I would just be like, okay, if Rookie's the captain, what is the situation where he's going to end up being a captain? How do you financially make that work and stuff like that? So now that I got past the first 4, we'll talk about 5 here. So, because I watch League, if I'm up early enough, and typically if it's a 3-gamer, I can usually watch the last game. I'll typically look at the scoring, see how things are shaking out, and I'll certainly always look at what the winning lineup is. And I have been beat in a situation where I've had the second highest scoring line that, ties for like 4th or some shit, on occasions to where both ADCs show up, murder the field, murder the other team, and they are the highest scoring players. And what did you need to do to get them in a lineup? You either had to play a support player from a losing team, or whatever is the best losing team position of the 2-game slate. So this one, I know for a fact I hand-built the Jackie Love winning contest today, because I had, entered my first 4 lines, seeing that Jackie Love was probably going to be the highest scoring captain, just based on true DFS projections. But typically, like, I don't need projections to tell me that an AD carry is going to be, the highest scoring guy. Like, if you understand how League of Legends work, that's just what's going to happen. Same thing with, like, Counter-Strike. The Opper is most likely going to be your highest scoring captain. Just how it is. Zywoo, Vitality, or Zywoo, Simple, whoever the situation is, typically the Opper is the highest scoring guy there. So here, I knew for a fact I wanted to get Jackie Love in the captain. I wanted to get Gala in the ADC here, because this is built saying that these guys are just going to fucking murder the field. These are going to be the 2 highest scoring guys, which I think, let me check, because I haven't pulled this slate yet. I want to say that these guys are the highest scoring players real fast, if this stuff will load, so I can kind of make sense here. Let me go ahead and pause this until it loads and everything. So your higher scoring players in this one was Jackie Love at 190, Tion at 151, Rookie 147 for top esports, and then Gala was the highest scoring player from RNG. Then it was Mark, then it was Wayward, and so we're in a situation where, so you're the top 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Your top 6 scorers on this slate, 5 of them are from top esports. So when you're building lineups, you can only have 4 players from each team. You can't play 5. So yet again, related to Counter-Strike, that's why this was a much easier example. You can only have 3 from each team, and you don't have to worry about positions. So when you're building lines, like, you're not going to be able to get to everybody in this team, and it's literally like just filling out a line of what will end up happening here. And so due to the fact that you can't just slam in everybody from the winning team, typically the highest scoring player on the secondary team is, in my opinion, usually forcing his way into the winning lineup. This one just happened to be an AD carry, but typically it would be whatever the highest scoring players from, the highest scoring game, and then the highest scoring player from the secondary winning team. Is this making sense? I hope it's making sense. But anyway, based on, I want to say, could I afford Mark here? Yeah, so the reason I built it like this is the 2 AD carries are going to be played. I then realized that, look, at some point I'm going to have to play somebody from a losing team. And especially in a best of 5, you can find the value plays coming through at the very bottom of the salary, and understanding that a 51 from 44 is a way better play than playing like the worst support player from the losing team, because there's a good chance he might just get killed 11 times, not even going to kill, maybe get 2 assists, and he doesn't score you anything. So here I just went with, well, I think Jackie Love is going to be the highest scoring player. Due to that, I think Top Esports will probably be the highest scoring team. So who are the highest scoring players from Top Esports? Am I able to get them in a contest, or am I able to get them in the lineup that makes sense? Well, your highest scoring guys from Top Esports were Jackie, Tion, Rookie, Mark, and Wayward. Now, I couldn't afford Mark at $6,200 and this is me as I'm building my lineups, and as I hand build this one, understanding that I probably can't just pay up for everybody. I can't afford it. I'm going to be extremely tight on salary. So what can I do to make this work if this is a situation where both the favorites kill the other team and they play the way they should? It'll just come down to fitting in as many players as possible. And so the fact that I couldn't afford Mark at $6,200 in this line, just because I wouldn't have been able to afford it, forced me to understand I'm probably going to play Ming, the cheapest player between the 2 winning teams, and then just filled out the rest of the line. It's not necessarily me working off of projections. It's me just going through and building lineups. And the same thing could be said. I would be answering the question the same way as if this line would have been optimal or whatever. I would have just explained what I did here. But knowing and looking at how certain kind of crazy lineups come through, and knowing for a fact that I have been beaten from the optimal lineup by lineups that look exactly like this, that's why I played WE in the team position on my 5th lineup, because at this point, my first 4 are usually what SaberSim is telling me, or whatever optimizer you're using, and then I just hand build following that. And so, like, lineup number 6, the second lineup I hand built, looked at this and, like, what if Angel is the, winning, what if Angel is the best captain? I'm just going to try and build that way. 7 went, just trying to get different, look how close these lineups are. I don't know, man. Really, like, projections are important to understand where guys are going to probably perform, but it's really not the end-all be-all in esports, and it's really not the end-all be-all in F1. Yet again, I got extremely lucky with the Fernando Alonso kind of controversy, with him being removed from second place, falling out of the podium. But yet again, I played the optimal for the F1 contest last week, or 2 weeks ago, running the same strategy, identifying what captain I want. Sergio Perez, if he's there, clearly Max Verstappen is not going to work out. Red Bull will probably be the highest constructor, so we've identified our captain, our constructor. It's literally just filling out the rest of your lineup and trying to both balance being unique with, you know, building with ways that an optimizer is not going to build with, or the way that you probably shouldn't build with. I'm not saying you shouldn't because it won this way, but typically these are the types of lines that are going to win. It's a 4-3 just with players from the winning team. And this just so happened to be one of those situations to where you needed, you know, both AD carries and stuff. So anyway, that's kind of my answer. It was very long-winded, but if I did this in Discord, if I typed everything out in Discord, it wouldn't have, I think I would have just absolutely, it would have been screwed. It wouldn't have made a lot of sense. So I wanted to go ahead and record this, explain what I do, and so on and so forth. I'll even give an example real fast. So like the Counter-Strike match that is going on right now, I didn't play it. I don't like these, let's look at the live contest real fast. I don't like contests like this because I'm going to assume, and will actually, it's already live, but we'll take a look real fast. I'm going to assume that Complexity was the favorite. And so Imperial, great team. Honestly, can compete with the best of them. Complexity, great team, falters a lot. This is honestly a toss-up. Furia should clean the fucking field here, but they were the most expensive players. Okay, so Imperial, Complexity, very much a toss-up. I'm going to assume Complexity was the favorite here, but I don't know for sure because I didn't bother looking at it. Just I saw the teams, I didn't want to mess with them because Fallen could very easily carry Imperial, whatever the case may be. So let's go ahead and look at these. Have they started it? They haven't started yet. So I'm going to assume, as I said, I'm going to assume Complexity is the favorite. HLTV, which fanboys, you know, are very much split, which honestly, this is usually a good indication for like tier 2 competition. We can argue that this is tier 1, but I would look at this as bottom tier 1, top of tier 2. But when we go to insights here, so actually Imperial's the bookmarker favorite. That's really interesting because these guys the teams are nearly identical. The Complexity has faltered quite a lot, but when you look at the teams that both these teams have played, you know, Complexity just beat Imperial the other day. And Imperial lost against Furia, which is a great team. They lost against Saw, which is a great example of what Complexity can do. Movie Star Riders, great idea of what Complexity can do. Like, these teams are very much even. I don't like building for those slates. This is very much a toss-up. I don't know who would win from here, to be honest with you. That's why I didn't play. I would rather just watch this and not put money on it. When we go to the Furia, I mean, Furia should just absolutely fucking destroy these guys. It's not even funny. This is they're probably a huge favorite, probably minus 700 or some shit. Like, it's just not worth it. But in this situation here, this game will probably be 2-0. This game, the Imperial Complexity, this game could very easily go 2-1 on either team. I would imagine both teams at least win a match here. That's just why I didn't play it, because I like approaching things and I can approach it this way here. But anyway, that's my thoughts. That's my esports video. A lot of people ask me about Counter-Strike and League of Legends and stuff, and I would much rather answer it this way, to where we're kind of removed from stuff and not necessarily approaching a certain game or a certain slate. Oh, that's the last thing I want to check. I want to see what these builds are like. So, like, here, yet again, you know, and this is just going through, but like, I'm assuming that this is probably what the optimal was saying to play on most sites. Vinny concerns me for Imperial. I think there's some players on Complexity that'll outscore you. But look at these, like Case Serato at 15-9. You know, Yuri here. We'll even go here. This is a great example, especially because this hasn't started yet. Your best players on Furia is Case Serato, Safe, Yuri, Art, Drop. Well, I guarantee you Safe is priced up. Yuri is priced up. So what do you have to do in order, if you want to build that way with Case Serato? Well, you have to play, it's letting you play Yuri, it's letting you play Drop. So you're playing the worst player on Furia. you're playing the third best player on Furia because you're having to play the most expensive guy there. It's forcing you to do that. And then, very much same thing as just answering what happens here. So with Complexity, or with Imperial, Fallen's the best player there, but you're playing probably the worst Imperial player, probably the second worst Imperial player, just due to the fact that how you have to build that way. This is the type of lineup I would end up building. I just don't feel comfortable with that in this contest because I think the Imperial Complexity game could go a lot of directions. Let's see Nick. So Nick is a fantastic player. I want to see what he does. I'm assuming that he's probably going to have a lot of combinations that aren't 3-3s, which at that point Nick has a real contention, a real chance of winning this contest. And I'm assuming that he's not going to have a lot. This is one that I would probably end up playing as well. 3 Furia, 2 Complexity, 1 Imperial. But at this point, this is when variance and randomness really comes into play. And like I said, we're letting Jesus take the wheel at this point. And there's just a lot of randomness. I never really feel confident in my lineups if I have to build like this. I would much rather just try and play the optimal in a situation where both teams go 2-0. But I do want to check out what he's doing here. Interesting. So not fading, and Nick has to do this because I assume Nick runs an optimizer because he usually maxes out. Yeah, he's at 35, so he maxed out here. This is a situation built, as I said, with both teams going 2-0. But because Furia is so expensive, it's difficult to build this way. We just talked about this first line with Murray playing the best player on the slate in the captain position. It's difficult to do that. I think it was, which one was it? Was it 7, 8? We'll find it here. I just saw it. I don't remember which one it was. So here, this is playing the better players from Imperial. This is taking, still got Joda. I just went blank. I hope this is answering, or at least walking you through how I build lines and stuff. So you're not playing Vinny, which if you're playing K Serato, you're forced to play Vinny, who is the worst player on Imperial. This is going to Joda, and this is going to Cello, which Cello and Bolts, and even Joda, you can argue that these guys can all fight to be the second best player on Imperial. You have to play that. You have to build that way because you aren't getting K Serato in here, and this is built. This lineup specifically, the optimizer saying if K Serato underperforms or if he isn't the highest scoring lineup or guy due to his pricing, you don't need him in the winning lineup and so on and so forth. Now, I don't know, like I said, I assume Nick's probably going to perform well here, but, this is why I didn't like this slate to build this way because I don't feel comfortable with how drastically different the pricing is between Furia and then just what Complexity and Imperial, like that game is very much up in the air. Just didn't feel comfortable with them. But this is a walkthrough of how I personally build lines, how I approach esports, and yeah, I just want to answer that. Thank you for being here and listening, and if this helps you out in any form or fashion, feel free to let me know, and if not, well, at least I finally have this video out there, so if anybody ever asks me how I approach esports and stuff, I could just pinpoint them here. So thank you very much for being here.